You're creative, right? And you're seeing NFTs pop up everywhere. Well, it feels like a lot of noise, doesn't
It
it?
really can. Information overload.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we're trying to cut through that. Think of this as the essential information you need just to understand NFTs and, how they might actually fit into what you do creatively.
Yeah, precisely. And we've got a great resource to help us, the Creative Strategy Guide for NFT Success. It's not about making you a crypto guru overnight.
Definitely not.
It's really focused. It's for creative folks like you listening who are just curious about NFTs.
Yeah.
It aims to give a clear picture, a path maybe, for getting involved in a way that makes sense long term.
Right. So our mission today is pretty simple. Pull out the absolute must-know stuff from this guide. We'll break down what NFTs actually are, how the tech works without getting lost in the weeds.
Keep it understandable.
Yeah, and crucially, why you, as an artist, a musician, a writer, whatever, why you might even pair, we're skipping the hype, focusing on the basics so you can feel, well, informed, not just overwhelmed.
Sounds like a plan. Where do we start?
Okay, let's dive in. The guide kicks off with cryptocurrency. It's kind of the foundation for all this NFT stuff. What's the key thing creatives need to grasp about crypto?
Okay, so think of crypto basically as digital money. But the key difference is it operates without a central bank or authority figure. The guide calls them digital fungible tokens made in a decentralized way.
Fungible meaning interchangeable, right? Like
No.
$1 is the same as another.
Exactly. We'll get more into that. But for a creative person, the big idea here is this potential for maybe more direct control over your digital work and more direct link to your audience, bypassing some of the old gatekeepers.
Interesting. And the first one, the big one, was Bitcoin.
That's the one. Bitcoin. Started way back in 2009, supposedly by this mysterious fellow, Satoshi Nakamoto. Still, nobody really knows who that
It's
is.
got that whole mystique around it.
Totally. And the guide mentions this kind of legendary story from 2010. This guy, Laszlo Hengis, bought 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoins.
10,000, wow.
Yeah, imagine. Back then, they were basically worthless, just digital tokens. Now, that's an unbelievable amount of money.
Mind-blowing.
The lesson there, I think, is don't just dismiss new tech that seems small or kind of silly at first. Things can change fast in this space.
Definitely a lesson there. Okay, so Bitcoin was first, but then came loads of others. The guide kind of cheekily calls them alt-shitcoins. What's the deal with those? Should we care?
Well, the main thing to know is they're mostly derived from Bitcoin's tech or built on newer platforms like Ethereum. A lot of them, especially the ones based on internet memes, the guide mentions Doge, Musk coin, LGB coin, they are super volatile.
Meaning their value jumps around like crazy.
Exactly. Big spikes, big crashes, often driven by hype on social media. They don't always have the same kind of underlying structure or scarcity as Bitcoin. So, yeah, maybe quick gains are possible, but the risk of losing everything is also really, really high. You hear about rug pulls, where the creators just vanish with the money.
Okay, good to be wary. So you mentioned fungibility earlier. The guide dives into this. Can you break that down a bit more simply? It sounds very financy.
It does, but the concept's simple. Fungible just means interchangeable. One unit is the same as another identical unit, like 1 ounce of pure gold is the same as any other ounce of pure gold.
Okay.
The guide explains that traditional money, like the US dollar, needs this quality. It needs a uniform value, or what they call backing, to work properly.
Right, and the guide says the dollar used to be backed by gold reserves.
Exactly. It's key to separate the face value, the denomination, like a $10 bill, from what supposedly gives it that value, the backing, which was gold.
And inflation fits in here somehow.
Yeah, the guide explains inflation is what happens when, say, a government prints way more money, more denominations than the backing, like gold reserves, can actually support. The money loses purchasing power. Eventually, you get fiat currency, which isn't backed by a physical thing anymore, just by government decree and, well, trust.
Which leads to crypto's promise of being maybe inflation-proof. The guide mentions Bitcoin's halving. What's that about?
Right, halving is a really interesting part of Bitcoin's design. It's a built-in mechanism to control the supply of new Bitcoin being created. Essentially, roughly every 4 years, the reward that miners get for processing transactions and adding them to the blockchain gets cut in half.
Ah, so less new Bitcoin enters circulation over time.
Precisely. It's designed to mimic the scarcity of something like gold, making it harder and harder to mine new coins as time goes on. This helps regulate the supply and, theoretically, supports its long-term value.
The guide gives some figures. As of March 2020, something like 18.5 million out of a total possible 21 million Bitcoin had been mined.
That's right. And the reward then was 6.25 Bitcoin per block. This halving process keeps going, getting smaller and smaller, until around the year 2140, when all 21 million Bitcoin are expected to be out there.
And after that, no more mining rewards.
The miners will likely just be supported by the transaction fees people pay to send Bitcoin. The key point, though, is that Bitcoin was designed from the start with this fixed limited supply and a predictable inflation schedule, unlike traditional fiat currencies. It was the first digital currency trying to have that kind of scarcity, like gold or silver.
Okay, that makes sense. So underpinning all of this crypto stuff is the blockchain. The guide calls it a digital ledger. Paint a picture for us.
Imagine a giant shared spreadsheet, or maybe a digital notebook. But instead of one person controlling it, thousands of computers all over the world have a copy.
Okay.
And every time a transaction happens, like someone sending Bitcoin, it gets recorded as a block of data. This block gets added to the end of the chain of previous blocks in chronological order. And it's secured using cryptography, making it really hard to tamper with.
So it's distributed, everyone has a copy, and it's secure.
That's the core idea. It's decentralized. The appeal, the guide points out, is removing the need for a central middleman, like a bank, to verify everything. It's often called DeFi, decentralized finance.
And it's transparent, too. The guide mentioned Twitter bots tracking big crypto movements.
Yeah, that's another key aspect. While your personal identity might not be directly tied to your wallet address publicly, the transactions themselves, the movement of crypto from one address to another, are generally visible to anyone who looks at the blockchain ledger. That transparency builds trust.
Okay. And it started with Bitcoin's blockchain, but then others came along.
Right. Bitcoin was the pioneer. But then other blockchains emerged, creating these separate blockchain economies. The first really big one after Bitcoin was Ethereum.
And Ethereum did more than just digital money, right? The guide says it aimed to enhance digital fungibility beyond just finance.
Exactly. Ethereum was designed to be more flexible. It wasn't just about sending currency. It allowed developers to build applications on top of the blockchain. And that brings us to smart contracts.
Smart contracts sounds futuristic. What are they really? Especially for creatives.
Well, funny enough, the idea of smart contracts is actually older than Bitcoin. The guide mentions thinkers like Nick Szabo exploring concepts like BitGold back in the 90s. And even IBM looked into it.
Huh, okay.
But essentially, a smart contract is just a piece of code that lives on the blockchain. It's programmed to automatically execute certain actions when specific, predefined conditions are met. Think of it like a digital vending machine. You put in the money, crypto, and the code automatically dispenses the product, maybe a digital asset or access to something.
So it automates agreements without needing a human intermediary. The guide compared it to an automated account manager.
That's a good analogy. It runs exactly as programmed, based on the rules embedded in the blockchain code, which are very hard to change. It automates trust, in a way.
Okay. And this became really important with Ethereum.
Hugely important. Ethereum made it much easier to create and deploy these smart contracts. And the guide highlights a key development around 2018, the expansion of Ethereum's technical standards, known as ERC standards. These open the door for new types of smart contracts.
And two of those are critical for NFTs, right?
Absolutely. The two big ones for creatives are ERC 721 and ERC 1155.
Let's break those down. First, ERC 721. What's special about that one?
ERC 721 is the standard for non-fungible tokens. Remember, fungible means interchangeable. Non-fungible means unique. Each ERC 721 token is one of a kind. It had the unique identifier recorded on the blockchain that distinguishes it from every other token, even if they represent similar things.
Like a serial number on a limited edition print.
Exactly like that, but digital and secured by the blockchain. This standard is what allows you to create a provably unique digital item, like a piece of digital art that is certified as the original. This was revolutionary for digital creators.
Okay, that makes sense for unique one-of-one pieces. What about the other one, ERC 1155? How's it different?
ERC 1155 is more flexible. It's like a multi-tool standard. It can handle both non-fungible, unique ERC 721 style tokens and fungible interchangeable tokens, all within the same single smart contract.
Oh, okay, so you could use it for different things.
Yeah. For example, a game developer could use it to create unique legendary swords, non-fungible, and also stacks of common healing potions, fungible, within the same game system contract. Or an artist could use it to mint a unique 11 piece and also a limited edition run of 100 identical prints.
So it offers more options.
Right. The guide notes this flexibility helped fuel the growth of all sorts of digital assets on Ethereum around 2017 and onwards, including many of those meme coins we mentioned earlier, and it contributed to Ethereum's own value increasing.
All right, so we've got crypto, blockchain, smart contracts, token standards. Now let's get to the heart of it for our listeners. What exactly are NFTs? Because there's confusion and maybe some skepticism.
Definitely. And the guide tackles this head on by first saying what NFTs aren't, which is
Okay,
helpful.
okay, what aren't they?
One, they aren't the artwork or the digital file itself. The NFT is more like the certificate of ownership or authenticity that's recorded on the blockchain, pointing to that file.
Got it. So the token isn't the art, it's the proof of ownership of the art.
Kind of, yeah. Two, they're not some totally separate fad that's disconnected from crypto. They rely entirely on the underlying blockchain and smart contract technology we just discussed.
Right, they're a function of crypto tech.
Exactly. And three, the guide is pretty clear. They don't see NFTs as a dying industry or a passing fad. The underlying tech has potential staying power.
That's reassuring for creatives thinking about dipping their toes in. Now, what about the big elephant in the room for artists? Art theft. People worry NFTs make it easier to steal art.
The guide addresses this directly. It acknowledges that, yes, copyright infringement happens online. People copy images, right? But that was happening long before NFTs existed, right?
True, very true.
The core function of an NFT isn't theft. It's actually about creating a verifiable record of ownership for a specific digital token associated with an asset.
Yeah.
Now, can someone mint an NFT pointing to art they don't own? Unfortunately, yes, that can happen on some platforms, and it's a problem the space is grappling with. But the tech itself is designed for provenance and ownership tracking.
And the whole, but I can just right-click and save the image argument.
Yeah, the guide pushes back on that a bit. It asks, could people copy digital images before NFTs? Of course. Did that stop artists sharing work online? Mostly, no.
Good point.
The idea is that owning the NFT associated with the artwork is different from just having a copy of the image file. It's like owning an officially signed numbered print versus just having a photocopy off the internet. The NFT provides that verifiable, scarce, ownable layer. The ERC 721 and 1155 standards are what make that unique identification possible.
Okay, so let's circle back to ERC 721, the unique, non-fungible one. The guide said it started with collectibles. How would an artist, say a photographer, use this today?
So imagine that photographer takes an amazing, unique shot. They could decide to mint that specific photograph as an ERC 721 token. This creates a single, unique digital asset on the blockchain. That token acts as the digital certificate of authenticity, proving it's the original digital version from the artist. It can then be sold, and future ownership changes are tracked on the blockchain.
Right. And minting is the word for actually creating the NFT. The guide says it's like attaching the asset to the token. How does an artist do that? Is it complicated?
It can be, but the guide focuses on the easier way for beginners, using an NFT marketplace. They have interfaces that let you just, upload your file, your image, music, video, whatever, fill in some details, and the platform handles the process of creating the smart contract and token on the blockchain for you. It's kind of like uploading a product to an online store,
Right.
but it creates this unique blockchain asset.
Okay, that sounds more manageable. And to interact with these marketplaces, you need a crypto wallet. The guide recommends MetaMask.
Yes, absolutely essential.
Yeah.
A crypto wallet is like your digital, wallet. It holds your cryptocurrency, like Ether, if you're on Ethereum, and it's also where your NFTs are stored once you buy or mint them.
So the NFTs live in the wallet.
Digitally speaking, yes. The wallet holds the private keys that prove you own those specific tokens on the blockchain. The guide makes an interesting comparison. An NFT is like a special kind of crypto token itself, one that has a unique value tied to the asset it represents and maybe the cost to create it.
Yeah.
And yeah, MetaMask.io is probably the most common browser extension wallet used for interacting with Ethereum-based NFT sites. It's pretty user-friendly.
Got the wallet. Now, where do you actually sell the NFT marketplaces? The guide mentions OpenSea.io as a big one for newbies.
OpenSea is definitely the largest marketplace by volume, and it has tons of guides and integrations, so yeah, it's a common starting point. But the guide also notes a downside.
Yeah.
Because it's so big, it can be really saturated, lots of stuff, and sometimes fakes or low-quality projects can slip through.
Any others mentions?
It mentions Rarible.com as another popular one, kind of a sister site, and notes that some artists report more consistent sales there. Apparently, they share some technical protocols, so sometimes you can even mint on one and see it on the other. Mintable and Zora get brief mentions, too, as other options out there.
Okay, let's imagine we're using OpenSea. following the guide's example of Crypto00D. It says you start by creating a collection. What are the key things you do when setting that up and uploading the NFT?
Right. So once your MetaMask wallet is connected to OpenSea, you create your collection that's like your storefront or gallery page. You'll upload a profile pic, a banner image. But the really important part the guide highlights is setting royalties.
Ah, yes, royalties. That sounds huge for creators.
It is. This is where smart contracts really shine for artists. You can set a percentage. The guide says OpenSea might default to 2.5%, but you can often go up to 10% or maybe more. And that percentage of every future resale of your NFT
Yeah.
automatically comes back to your wallet forever.
Wow, so even if it gets sold 10 times down the line, you keep getting a cut.
As long as it's sold on a marketplace that respects that royalty standard in the smart contract, yes, it's built-in residual income potential. That's a game changer compared to traditional art sales.
Definitely. What about blockchain options? OpenSea has Ethereum and Polygon. What's the difference for someone starting out?
Good question. Ethereum is the main, most established blockchain for high-value NFTs, but using it usually involves paying gas fees, which we'll get to. Polygon is mentioned as a sort of side chain or layer 2 solution that integrates with Ethereum but offers much lower, or sometimes even initially free, minting. So for the Crypto Zero example, the guide suggests using Polygon makes it easier to get started without upfront costs.
Right, free sounds good for experimenting. Then you upload the actual Crypto Zero Day image, add descriptions, maybe some properties or traits, and set the price. The guide uses 1 Ether as an example.
Yep, you set the price in cryptocurrency, usually Ether, ETH, on OpenSea, and the platform typically shows you the approximate value in US dollars or your local currency based on the current exchange rate.
And then you hit list. What happens then? MetaMask pops up.
Right. Your wallet, MetaMask, will prompt you for a signature. This isn't costing you money usually, especially in Polygon for the first listing. It's just you giving cryptographic permission via the smart contract for the marketplace to list your NFT for sale on your behalf.
So it's like signing the consignment agreement digitally.
Exactly. And then it's listed. If someone comes along and buys it, the smart contract handles everything automatically in the background. It takes their crypto, sends it to your wallet, minus the marketplace fee, usually around 2.5%, and transfers the NFT token to their wallet.
Seamless. And the guide reminds us to then share the link on social media, like Twitter.
Yeah, got to let people know it exists.
Okay, but we skipped over something important with Ethereum. Gas fees. The guide calls them the cost of serious markets. What are these exactly?
Right. So while Polygon might offer free initial minting, if you want to operate on the main Ethereum blockchain, where a lot of the high-value collectors and established projects are, you generally have to pay for transactions. Minting an NFT, listing it, buying one, even just accepting an offer, often requires paying a gas fee.
And what is gas? Like fuel for the blockchain?
That's the analogy. It's essentially a fee you pay to the network of computers, the miners or validators, who are processing your transaction and adding it securely to the Ethereum blockchain ledger. You're paying for the computational effort required.
Okay, a processing fee. And the guide says these fees fluctuate, sometimes a lot.
Yes, that's a key point. Gas fees aren't fixed. They depend on how busy the Ethereum network is at that moment. If tons of people are trying to make transactions simultaneously, maybe during a hyped new NFT drop, the demand for processing power goes up, and the miners can charge higher fees. It's supply and demand.
Which can lead to gas wars, right? People trying to outbid each other.
Exactly. The guide mentions average costs could be anywhere from, say, $60 to $250 USD just for one transaction. But during peak times, historically, they've spiked into the thousands of dollars for a single mint. It can be a significant barrier.
Wow. So timing matters.
It can. There are websites and tools that track current gas prices, so people try to time their transactions for when the network is less congested, often late at night or on weekends, to save money. Although the guide does note that newer tech and upgrades are aiming to make these high fees less of an issue over time.
And the guide briefly dismisses the environmental concerns about the energy used.
It mentions the complaints, but characterizes them as stupid without much elaboration in the summary we have. It's definitely a complex and debated topic in the wider crypto world.
Understood. Okay, moving past the technical costs, a huge question for aspiring artists is, do I have to already be famous to sell NFTs? What does the guide say?
It gives a pretty clear no. You don't have to be famous already, but it also says it will be much more labor intensive if you're starting from scratch.
Meaning more work involved.
Yeah. The key is building brand awareness, getting your name and your art recognized in the NFT community. And the guide is realistic. That takes time. It suggests it could easily take a year, maybe more, of consistent effort. Failure often comes not from bad art, but from not understanding how to build that engagement organically.
And it warns against certain methods, right? Like
Uh-huh.
spamming.
Oh, strongly. The guide really hammers this point. The internet, social media algorithms, search engines like Google, they hate spam. Aggressive, inorganic promotion like copy-pasting links everywhere using bots, unsolicited DMs, these tactics are often detected and penalized.
Penalized how?
Your posts might get hidden, your account could get flagged or even suspended, your website could get deranked in search results. The guide specifically mentions Google's BERT algorithm rewarding genuine organic interaction and punishing robotic behavior. It warns against hiring shady marketers or promoters who use these tactics, as it can backfire badly long term. Think of the bad reputation of aggressive affiliate marketers, it's similar.
Makes sense. People hate being spammed. The guide has a great line: no one will want something they never asked you for.
That really sums it up. Constantly pushing your links on people who didn't ask is just annoying. The focus needs to shift from how can I sell this to how can my art or project provide value or benefit to this community.
Even if that benefit is just bragging rights or being part of a cool group.
Absolutely. Or access to exclusive content, community membership, supporting an artist they believe in. The guide advises against just dropping links in generic show me your art threads. It's about running it like a business, rallying people around your brand and vision, not just desperately seeking sales. NFT buyers often want to feel like they're joining something meaningful.
So how do you build that brand organically? The guide offers a 12-month challenge. What's the gist?
It's refreshingly simple, really. It's about consistency. The challenge is work on one aspect of your NFT business, creating art, engaging on social media, learning tech, whatever, for just 1 hour every day.
1 hour a day. Okay.
Commit to doing it 5 days a week. Make sure you hit at least 20 days like that each month, and keep it up for 12 to 24 months.
That sounds doable, but effective.
The guide argues it's incredibly effective over time. Think about it. That's hundreds, potentially thousands of hours invested. You could build a huge portfolio, develop serious skills in art, marketing, community building, and likely see a real increase in recognition and income. The key is treating your own project with the same dedication you'd give a paying client. Impress yourself first.
I like that. Treat your own brand seriously. And finally, the guide kind of zooms out a bit, connecting NFTs to broader online entrepreneurship and mentioning websites.
Yeah, it positions the NFT journey as potentially one part of becoming a successful online entrepreneur. The skills you learn, branding, content creation, community engagement, maybe even basic web stuff, are transferable. It mentions that having your own website can still be a big moneymaker online. It seems to be setting the stage for future topics like finding a niche, deeper branding, content strategies, marketing. Placing NFTs within that larger context.
Okay, great. So let's wrap this up. If you had to distill the absolute key takeaways from this deep dive into the creative strategy guide for NFT success, what would they be?
I'd say, 1, get a basic grasp of crypto and blockchain as the foundation. 2, understand that NFTs, using standards like ERC 721, are about creating verifiable digital uniqueness and ownership, which is powerful for creators.
Right.
3, you can get started relatively easily using marketplaces and wallets like MetaMask, especially with options like Polygon to lower initial costs. 4, maybe most importantly, long-term success isn't just about art. It's about building a brand through consistent, genuine engagement, not spam. Treat it like a business.
And hopefully that gives you, listening, a solid starting point, a way to look at the NFT space without feeling completely lost in the hype.
Exactly. It's a foundation.
Yeah.
And it does make you think, doesn't it, about where digital ownership is heading, how artists connect with audiences, what new creative economies might emerge from this tech. It's definitely an evolving landscape.
A landscape worth considering your own place within. And on that thought, maybe consider what specific parts of launching your creative work with NFTs you're still curious about. Let us know, and perhaps we can explore those areas in future deep dives.